Carla. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So, in our last session, we introduced ourselves, and you talked a little bit about your feelings about what's going on at home between your parents, how they're fighting a lot and stuff. And I've noticed from our previous session that you've spoken a lot about your siblings asking you questions. I kind of have a sense that you feel a little overwhelmed. Am I correct? Or
Yeah, it's just overwhelming being the oldest one and not knowing what to say to my siblings because I don't want to put them in a situation where they don't, um, when they like are mad at my parents. Like I don't want to be the cause of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm also sense some distance when you talked about your dad too in previous sessions. Is that correct or?
Yeah. I never seen my dad like be mad like that, and so it just kind of really scared me. And I'm afraid that if I bring it up to him, he's not gonna care, or he's gonna get upset with me for bringing it up.
Mm-hmm. So on a good note, you ended on a pretty positive note last time. We ended with you focusing on how everything is affecting your relationship specifically with your dad. So how are you feeling after our first session?
I felt better because I felt like I had someone that was talking to me, and you weren't gonna tell my parents what I say.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel less stressed now that I had the opportunity to, in a way, vent about my feelings.
Mm-hmm. Has anything changed at all?
Well, I think my parents are progressing and they're not fighting as much, but it's still something that is there.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say your biggest concern would be?
I think my biggest concern is not being able to talk to my dad about the situation.
Okay, so I'm hearing that there's still a little bit of fighting going on. You still haven't talked to your dad, and that's bothering you a little bit. You're still getting some questions from your siblings, so you don't really know how to answer them because you don't really know fully what's going on. So for our long-term goal here, we're gonna work on your relationship with your dad specifically. And but in a general sense, do you have a better sense of why they're fighting?
I kind of do, but not really. I still don't really understand the whole thing. And I've tried to talk to my mom about it, but I think she herself isn't ready to tell me the reason yet, which I understand and I respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens next.
So what do you think the reason might be?
I don't know. My parents never fought like this before, so I'm honestly like clueless to what the main reason is. Like maybe it has to do with my dad talking to somebody else. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel uncomfortable knowing that my dad would be talking to somebody else who isn't my mom.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like something new, kind of.
Yeah.
Like it's like a change in a
Yeah.
sense. So it's a little uncomfortable, a little new. It's a little confusing because you don't really know what's going on. For generally, how has everything like affected your relationships with others?
Well, these last couple of weeks have been harder because I used to be very active and I used to play with my friends and I was in volleyball and I used to do all of these stuff, and then after that happened I just kind of didn't really want to do anything, and I still kind of don't, but I'm like starting to miss being active with my friends, so I might start hanging out with them again. But at first it was difficult, and all I wanted to do was be by myself and be in my room.
Do you still do that?
I stopped a couple days ago. I realized that my parents' problems aren't really my problems, um, and I can't really have a say or be involved in it.
Mhm.
So I've been taking out my siblings, and me and my siblings have been going out, and we haven't they haven't been asking me as much questions as in the beginning, which is good. And so we just been focusing kind of on hanging out with each other.
That's good because you're kind of like taking them out of the atmosphere
Yeah.
and yourself as well, and just getting out and doing something other than being confined in your room or in their rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's good, and that's probably helping your parents get a little space to figure things out without having the pressure of doing it in front of you guys and stuff. So how has it specifically affected your relationship with your dad? You want to talk a little bit about that?
I think last time I told you that me and my mom have a pretty good relationship, and she's been more open about this whole situation. With my dad, he still wants to talk to me and treat me like nothing's wrong, and like he kind of wants to play it off like I don't know what's happening. Does that make sense? Like, and I understand and I appreciate that he's still talking to me, but somewhere along the future, I would like to have this conversation with him, just like how I had it with my mom. But I'm just scared to bring it up right now, and I don't know when the appropriate time would be.
Mm-hmm. So, like from what you said previously and what you're explaining to me, I hear that you still haven't talked to your dad, and you're still a little confused about it. You talked to your mom plenty of times, about the situation and vaguely, and you just haven't talked to your dad. It's kind of like when you're around him, he acts like nothing's going on. So do you? So I'm sensing that it kind of upsets you a little bit. Like it makes you maybe a little agitated, a little angry because it's like you want to talk about it, but he's not sensing that from you, or either maybe he is, but he's not.
I think that my dad thinks that it would hurt me to talk about it. So I think he is doing it more out of like respect for me, and he's looking out for me in a way. But I think that I am old enough to have these conversations, and I'm glad that he's talking to me again, even though he's acting like nothing's wrong. And at the beginning, we both kind of just ignored each other, and especially me, like I would go out of my way to ignore my dad, and it just made me miss him. So I'm glad that we're talking again. I just want to be able to have that moment with him like I did with my mom.
So from what you've said, that you haven't specifically talked to your dad, or you haven't specifically gone to him yourself, correct? Like both parties haven't come together and actually said, well, hey, can we talk about this specifically?
It hasn't happened.
Okay, so I'm getting a sense that possibly you mentioned a little bit briefly, but I'm getting a sense that you're a little afraid to confront him because you haven't seen this side of him before, and it's like new, it's a little different. So if you want to tell me a little bit, or help me understand a little bit about that.
Well, I'm scared that if I bring it up to my dad, he's gonna get upset with me and kind of yell at me the way that he yelled at my mom when they're fighting. And I'm scared that if I bring it up, we're gonna go back to ignoring each other how we did in the beginning. And I don't want that to happen. So that's why I'm scared to bring it up.
It does seem like there are times where your emotions are too intense when these things happen.
Yeah.
And so what do you usually do to cope with them?
Well, before I would just lock myself in my room, and I just felt more stressed out than anything because all I would do was think about the situation, and it didn't really give me any peace. And then when I met with you last week, you suggested maybe having a like something else to do, and so I started going out with my siblings, and I think that helped. That helped me de-stress myself and kind of not be too focused on the situation because in the beginning it was all I would think about and it was all that was on my mind, and but now it's not like that.
So help me understand a little bit what's going on in your head when your parents are fighting.
I guess I just something that goes on is in my head is why are they still fighting after this happened like a couple weeks ago? Why haven't they been able to resolve the issue? How big of an issue can it be that it's been more than 1 week that they have these fights? And at the beginning they were worse than they are now, but I just don't want them to fight at all anymore.
And how does that make you feel?
When they fight, it makes me angry because it makes me angry that I have to be in the house when they fight. It makes me angry that my siblings are in the house and we all have to watch them fight, and it's something that none of us are used to seeing because we grew up with our parents always being like happy with each other.
Yeah, I can see why you feel a little bit angry because of everything going on all at once. It's all new, it's different, it's something you particularly didn't really ask for, or your siblings. You kind of feel as if it's an interference a little bit with everything. Can you tie those feelings that you feel when they're fighting to any of your relationships or any other activities or any other aspects of your life?
Can I what?
Can you tie it to any other relationships or aspects of your life? No. I know you mentioned when you hang out with your friends, like you don't really hang out with them as much. Is it because of what's going on, or is it because how you're feeling? Is it because
it's more about how I'm feeling because these last couple of weeks I haven't been feeling like being in the mood to have fun or be cheery. But it's not that I don't want to, it's just that I am not ready yet to because I don't want my friends to ask me what's going on in my life, and so that's why I haven't been
do you feel like they sense what's going on?
Yeah.
Or a change?
I think they do because I would always hang out with them and I would always be the one reaching out, and now everybody's reaching out and I'm the one saying like no.
Do you see any change in like academics or in school?
A little bit, not that much, because I think school is something that I've always liked, and when I'm at school, like I don't think about that and I don't focus on that, and I just focus on whatever material I'm learning. At first it was hard to be at school and concentrate, but now I kind of have school as kind of a distraction in a way.
Okay, that's good. So like instead of it affecting school and academics negatively, you turned it into like a positive thing, and that's very good because like in future situations, if something similar to this or something not as big as this comes along, you'll already have the skills to convert the negativity into positivity and to improve yourself, which is what you're doing, which is good. So I know you mentioned that you haven't really tried to talk to your dad? Or was there a time where you kind of attempted to? Or
I think I attempted to once, but I just kind of freaked out in the last minute, and then I just never continued the conversation. I just said that I said, Dad, I want to talk to you, and he said okay. And then when he asked me what I wanted to talk about, I just kind of panicked, and I just talked about something else that wasn't related to anything about how I was feeling.
So what were you thinking when that happened?
When I panicked, I was just thinking I'm not ready yet to talk about this with my dad.
I'm sensing a little hesitation in like how your father might react as well. Did that have anything to do with maybe why you kind of backed away?
Yeah, because I was just scared that he was gonna tell me I don't want to talk about this, or I was scared that he was gonna get mad at me and yell at me for bringing the situation up to him.
So again, this is that you were feeling a little scared and overwhelmed at that specific event or moment. Okay. So, well, what about your mom? Tell me a little bit about your mom. Has anything changed with her? How is she? How is your relationship with her?
My relationship with my mom is pretty good. I don't really have any problems with her. She is always there to listen to me when I want to talk to her about things, and I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate that she gave me the room to speak what I wanted to, and I don't really have any problems with my mom.
So I'll give you a little bit of time to just kind of think and like review about like all the feelings that you felt during our first session and then how you feel now. So I'm gonna take a little bit of time to just think about that and just share whenever you're ready.
Okay. I think when I first came in to talk to you, I was really angry that I had to come in to talk to you. I didn't want to, at the time, I didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't realize how much holding all my feelings in was affecting like me and how I felt, because after our first session I felt relieved in a way, and I just felt like I had the opportunity to say everything that I wanted to say in a way.
Okay, so last session you mentioned how your parents fighting made you feel. So now I kind of want to focus on how to help you cope and process and express those emotions that you're feeling. And what I would like you to do is to put this into practice once a week. And so I know you mentioned that you like to draw in our last session. So for your goal, I'm going to introduce you to doing like an emotional log, but instead of writing, it'll be drawing. So that's what you like to enjoy. So what I would like you to do is draw what you're feeling at that exact moment when your parents are fighting or when you can sense it starting. And then you're gonna draw out one picture that you're feeling at that moment in time, and then about an hour or half hour after they're done fighting, then I want you to draw how you're feeling then. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so from this session and from last session, I've noticed that you've become more open about expressing what you're feeling, especially about your relationship with your dad and how that's affecting you. and how that's making you feel. You've done some great coping strategies that I haven't even introduced to you, such as taking you and your siblings out of the atmosphere and doing something more positive, more outdoorsy, which is good. And you mentioned that it hasn't affected you, you haven't let it affect your schoolwork. And I know you mentioned a little hiccup with your friends, but you also mentioned that you're gonna work on that as well. So I just wanted to let you know that those are very great steps, and especially for this amount of time and how far you've come, those are really great steps. So what other things have you noticed that you've been doing?
I think I started drawing in my journal last time you asked me to do it. And I kind of saw it as a stress reliever, kinda, and I hope you don't mind because it's not what we talked about, but I grew more than the one time. I kinda really used it as my thing to kinda get away when my parents are fighting.
So like I said, you came in with the issue not knowing how to express your feelings, and especially with your dad and confronting him about that, but you've made steps and you've tried, even though it didn't really work out, but the fact that you tried is very great progress. And you mentioned how it's affected your different relationships and stuff. So overall, how are you feeling about everything versus our last session?
I'm feeling better than the last session.
Even though they're still fighting, you still feel a little better? Yeah. Better in what way?
Better that I don't let their fight affect me anymore, and I don't really feel sad or angry anymore. I just kind of feel annoyed that the fights are still happening. But I know that the best thing for myself and for my siblings is to kind of just go outside and play or have fun with each other while our parents do that.
Okay, so I'm just gonna reiterate some confidentiality. What is talked about here stays between us, unless like there's anything dealing with you harming yourself or others, then I have to report it. I just want to let you know. But other than that, what stays between us stays between us, unless you want me to tell someone or talk to your mom or your dad. So how do you feel about that? Are you feeling okay about that? Yeah? Okay, so I'm just gonna reiterate the SMART goal again. So like you to draw once a week how you're feeling at that moment in time when your parents are fighting, and then an hour after how you're feeling then. And do you have any extra comments or anything you want to say?
No.
All right, well, I want to thank you for coming in and sharing, and you've done great with your progress, and I'm getting the sense too that you're gonna make a lot more progress. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you for listening.